Margaret Sanger's motto was, "No gods, no masters." This is Freethought Radio.
Welcome back. I'm Laurie Gaylor.
And I'm Dan Barker. The actor, comedian, and broadcaster John Fugelsang hosts Tell Me Everything weekdays on SiriusXM Insight number 121. And he's interviewed everyone from Paul McCartney, Bruce Springsteen, and Yoko Ono to Stanley Tucci, Rita Moreno, and Carl Reiner. He's also hosted America's Funniest Home Videos for ABC, and his film, Dream On, Examining the American Dream, features 200 interviews in 55 cities, including 17 states. His new book, just out, is Separate Church and Hate, a sane person's guide to taking back the Bible from fundamentalists, fascists, and flock fleecing frauds. John Fugelsang spoke at our annual convention in October. Let's listen to part of his entertaining and enlightening talk.
Thank you so much for coming. Thank you. It is such a pleasure to be in a room full of so many atheists doing the Lord's work. Thank you so much. Let me get my thing here. Alrighty. Wow. Happy No King's Day, everyone. First of all, hope you had a great time. And let's hear it for the clean auction. That was great. I loved it. I love anything that reminds us that just like separation of church and state, not putting God's name on our money is technically the conservative point of view. That's how it was originally. Now, I'm going to try to not go on too long tonight because I want to wrap this up before bird flu hits, because I don't know about you. I've noticed every time these Christians elect Caligula, God sends a new plague. So I'm just, trying to be careful. Because, this is where we are, friends, and I'm so sorry it's under these conditions, but America apparently is a mob restaurant being burned down for the insurance money. That's... I am ready to say at this point that the three worst presidents of my lifetime have been Dick Cheney, Vladimir Putin, and Elon Musk. I'm really ready to say it. Elon Musk makes me ashamed to be a racist billionaire with a ketamine problem. Do you understand? And he's a debit to his race. And also, we should mention J.D. Vance, because, I'm a fan of comedy. And imagine a vice president so evil, we're all defending the Catholic bishops. Imagine a president so evil, we're all defending Harvard University. There's where we are right now. J.D. Vance is sort of like every side effect of Ambien happening at once in one human form. He's sort of like if you had a fusion of all the horrible, petulant children who disappeared on the Wonka Chocolate Factory tour. That I don't want to be, he called Donald Trump Hitler. I don't know any Democrats who called him Hitler. His vice president called him Hitler. And somewhere in hell, Hitler is furious for comparing him to Trump, but he'll tell them both when he sees them. Now, and I was told to, I don't want to be overly vulgar, but J.D. Vance is not very popular these days. He's so unpopular. I heard the couch made him sleep on the bed. Okay. I'm just trying to see what kind of crowd we got here. Thank you. I am not going to call J.D. Vance a couch fucker, friends. I will not be using language like that. I will not call him a couch fucker. That is not appropriate. He prefers to identify as a sectional sexual. So please, get that right. And also, we've learned Kid Rock might run for the Senate in Michigan. Kid Rock, friends, Kid Rock. My generation's Leonard Cohen. And by the way, I want to make a promise to you tonight. If Kid Rock does run for the Senate, I promise I will run against him. I will. After changing my name to Kid Paper. I also want to announce after the speech, I will be in the lobby signing copies of the Donald Trump Bible. I hope you'll stop by. Finally, a Bible that bursts into flames the moment you bring it into a church. This has never happened before.
I sign all my Bibles. I autograph all my Bibles. Jesus never autographed a single Bible, you know. Never autographed a single crucifix either. I've signed hundreds of crucifixes. Let me tell you people about Crooked Christ, okay? Crooked Christ says he's Jesus of Nazareth, but he's born in Bethlehem. Which one is it? Where's he from? We don't know. He's a carpenter, Jesus. I hired him to work on my casino in the Sea of Galilee. Didn't pay him. Shoddy work, Jesus. No pay. It's all right. He's a Jew. They know how to sue. Folks, what I'm saying is this Jesus, he's 33. He never married. Hangs out with 12 other guys. I'm just saying.
I mean, this guy got into a fight with Pope Francis, with like the first nice pope. His holiness versus his assholiness. And why? Because Francis dared to say anyone who wants to build walls instead of bridges is not a Christian. Friends, y'all know the scripture well enough to know that's not blasphemy. That's the entire New Testament. And again, Trump was just like, well, who's this Latino sneaking across the Italian border to take a Pope job away from a real American, okay? And I don't do a Donald Trump impression, you may have noticed. What I do is I
work on my late period Marlon Brando, okay? Marlon Brando in the last few tragic years, okay? And Trump's a lot like Brando. They just want to sit on an island and have sex with underage girls and gain weight. It's natural. And then I take Marlon Brando and I get him hooked on Adderall, okay? And once he's on speed, I give him a cold. And that's my impression. Marlon Brando, amphetamines, and mucus. And it sounds just enough like Donald Trump.
Thank you very much. Now, I am so honored to be here after writing a book for both non-believers and believers about how you can take on Christian nationalism with scripture, nonviolence, and humor. And it is so much more fun to talk with you guys about the Bible than a room full of conservative Christians, because unlike right-wing Christians, most atheists have actually read the Bible. So I was raised to love and respect people of all faith and of no faith. I love atheists. I believe in atheists. And when I first moved to Hollywood, I read Annie's book, Woe to the Women, and it blew my mind. And so it's a real honor to be here. And I can say this because some of the finest Christians I have ever known have been atheists, and some of the most godless heathens I have ever known have called themselves Christian. And I wanted to write a book for believers of all faiths, non-believers and agnostics, on how to use the Bible when debating a right-wing Christian at your home, in your workplace, in your school, in your government, your local school board, or your social media feed, because the loudest, meanest Christians in our society don't know the Bible all that well, and they're counting on the rest of us not knowing the Bible all that well so they can bring about their agenda. Millions of nice people who were raised Christian have grown up, as you well know, to find this movement we were taught was about peace and love and empathy and forgiveness has somehow morphed into a mean, white supremacist, tax-free clique that uses Jesus as a prop while legislating against his actual teachings. And Project 2025 is an attempt to control the entire level of freedom in this country based on their shitty, anti-Jesus, right-wing interpretation of the Bible. They don't fight for God. They don't fight for anything Jesus actually says in the book. They don't really care about religious freedom or Satan. Their only agenda is conservative religious power. That is the only religion, and we are aligned against this. It's going to be really important to diffuse their power by elegantly pointing out over the next few years that they don't follow that Bible they wave around so bombastically, and doggone it, you'll be surprised how good it feels. From the very beginnings of this American experiment, alliances between agnostics, humanists, progressive Christians, and believers of other faiths have been the strongest counterforce to the never-ending fundamentalist project of marrying religious dogma to personal power. In the abolitionist movement, Quakers and Unitarians worked alongside freethinkers and humanists. In anti-war and feminist movements, we have seen nuns and non-believers linking arms against warmongers and misogynists. It's not about shared theology, but shared conviction. that the freedom of conscience and the dignity of human beings is too important to be sacrificed on the altar of authoritarian, crappy, fake Christianity. And I'm sorry, but both atheists and progressive Christians really do listen to better music. That's just how it is. I have come to view Jesus in much the way I have come to view Elvis. I love the guy, but a lot of his fan clubs horrify me. And I was raised to respect Muslims and Jews and Hindus and atheists. When I was a little kid, my dad pulled me out of bed late one night to watch Jimmy Carter sign the Camp David peace accords between Israel and Egypt. He couldn't believe an American Christian had brought peace between Israel and Egypt, and he wanted his kid there to witness a Muslim and a Jew and a Christian embracing in a real, actual peace deal that wasn't built on hype and has lasted for almost 50 years. To my dad, that was everything that America and Christianity could and should be. But if you watched television news in the late 20th century, you were treated to a nonstop parade of blow-dried televangelists and ex-segregationists speaking for and defining the Christian point of view. Guys like Jerry Falwell and Pat Robertson, they didn't talk about helping the poor. They never talked about helping the sick or welcoming the stranger or caring for the least of us. These guys told us who we should be hating, who we should be fearing. These fundamentalists that dominated our airwaves in the late 20th century told us, liberals, feminists, women who want control of their own bodies, labor unions, welfare queens, gay people, the Christian refugees at our border they call illegals. These fundamentalists never called out the evils of racism, but wow, they attacked anti-racism protests and policies. These were the men, when I was growing up, that American media presented as Christians, true Christians, and they were fucking evil grifters who took advantage of the fact that most people don't know the Bible all that well. They were charlatans, frauds, and hypocrites, and they made for great TV. No one wants to see nice people talking about getting along. The media has been one of the greatest drivers in evil Christianity flourishing because even liberals like to hate watch villains. And all this cultural and political power shifted by the early 80s to these grifting, flock-fleecing frauds, and Republicans guaranteed themselves the evangelical vote no matter how un-Christ-like their platform, because in the late 70s, the fundamentalists discovered a magic word that would transform Christianity and U.S. politics for 2 generations, a word that would displace and replace the actual teachings of Jesus that were a little too woke for our Republican friends: abortion.
And that's John Fugelsang, who is the author of the new book, Separate Church and Hate. And he's very funny, but we're going to listen to an excerpt of his talk where he gets a little more serious about the threats of Christian nationalism. I'm Laurie Gaylor.
And I'm Dan Barker. We'll be right back with more Freethought Radio.
Our legal team works every day to defend our secular constitution. We've stopped unconstitutional prayer in public schools, shut down government-funded religious programs, and much more. If you see a state church violation in your area, you can report it through our website at the link on your screen.
As Mark Twain said, faith is believing what you know ain't so. This is Freethought Radio.
Welcome back to Freethought Radio. I'm Laurie Gaylor.
And I'm Dan Barker. Laurie and I are co-presidents of the Freedom from Religion Foundation. And we've been listening to John Fugelsang, the actor, comedian, broadcaster, giving a speech at our annual convention last October about his new book, Separate Church and Hate. And now he's going to get serious and talk about how the Christian nationalists are using religion to weaponize the Bible for political purposes.
When Roe v. Wade was decided by the Supreme Court, y'all might remember the most controversial thing about it was how not controversial it was. That was the thing the Catholics cared about, but the Southern Baptist Convention approved it. Jerry Falwell never mentioned abortion until 5 years after Roe v. Wade was decided. When the Christian Coalition and the moral majority decided to make abortion their central issue, everything changed. Anti-abortionism was like a magical Hogwarts spell. And segregation and taxes had made Falwell and these guys rich, but abortion and gay bashing made them household names and powerful. The pro-life branding unified right-wing evangelicals and Catholics. It created huge political alliances, and it forever reframed American Christianity. And in 45 years since then, 2 generations have been systemically groomed to replace everything Jesus ever talked about by talking about abortion, which Jesus never talked about. The Bible's not against it. And I never knew this until I grew up and read it for myself. I mean, in the Jewish faith, life begins with first breath. God makes it clear in Exodus that a fetus is property, and a woman's life has more value in his eye than a fetus. In Numbers chapter 5, God gives rather gruesome tips on abortion for pregnant, unfaithful wives. I think Passover showed us how much God cares about innocent children. Never. And because it never actually bans Judaism, bans abortion, that's why abortions are legal and free in Israel right now. Jesus was against the death penalty more than once, never mentioned abortion. They do not fight for Jesus. They do not follow this religion they claim to follow and that they use to mess up our country. The Bible should have no role in our governance, but here we are. Authoritarian Christianity has grown bolder and more dangerous. Open Christian nationalist rhetoric is all over our politics. And 40 years after they used abortion to get the Christians to throw out Jesus, Donald Trump got the evangelical right on his side, not by promising to do a single thing Jesus said, but by promising them power. Jesus' entire movement about humility, servant leadership, the last shall be first, go to the marginalized. No, our right wing, their religion is power. That's all they care about. They don't follow the book. Trump said, you're under siege. He played up the persecution narrative. And that's how he did it. Because the only way to follow both Donald Trump and Jesus is if you've never read either of their books. They are fighting for a white-dominated Christian nationalist society where their narrow right-wing version of this religion is forced into every level of our culture. And in this second term, we've seen more fascism than I bet most of y'all have seen in this country in your lives. 10 commandments being required in classrooms. One religion is officially being prioritized over a government than another. We got government officials trying to get Americans fired for quoting Charlie Kirk's racist statements directly. And while they do this, they're blowing up people in boats with no evidence, and they're cutting service for the poorest of the poor, and they're cutting taxes and regulations for the wealthy, and ICE cowards are chasing brown kids around church picnics, and the media is still going to give them the cover of saying they're Christian? The media is going to still give them that camouflage? The media is never going to say, where does Jesus drive the gay wedding cakes out of the temple? It's not that we're against Christians. They're lying that they follow Jesus. And the media can't call them out on it. Democrats are too afraid. A country founded by deists who didn't want a king, and a religion inspired by a rabbi who told people to love their enemies. And it's all been hijacked by these power-hungry grifters who disdain the Bill of Rights as much as they disdain the Gospels. Most of you probably know this. If you're dealing with a Christian nationalist and arguing with them on any of the issues that divide us, even if you're atheist, the Jesus of the Bible is probably on your side, whether he's real or not. Going by the Bible they're trying to force on us, this Jesus they claim to follow so devotedly was a peaceful, radical, nonviolent revolutionary who hung around with lepers, hookers, and crooks. He never spoke English. He was never an American citizen. He was anti-wealth, completely anti-death penalty, anti-public prayer. Yes, he was. Matthew 6:5, anti-public prayer. Never once anti-gay. Never once mentioned abortion. Never once called poor people lazy. Never fought for tax cuts for the wealthiest Nazarenes. Never said, torture's okay sometimes. Never asked a leper for a copay. And he was a long-haired, brown-skinned, that's in Revelation, brown-skinned, homeless, community organizing, anti-slut-shaming, unarmed, Palestinian liberal Jew. We live in a time when politicians try to make the abortion rate go down by making it harder for women to get birth control, where they get the Christians to vote against everything Christ talked about by talking about abortion and gay people, which Christ didn't talk about, where bless your heart in this country is now a euphemism for fuck you. I don't know how that happened. And where evangelicals believe a talking snake is literal fact, but love your enemies is just Jesus being all metaphorical and shit. Help the poor? No. Care for the sick? No. Anti-eye for an eye? No. Render your taxes? No, sucker. Be kind to the incarcerated? Hell no. Welcome the stranger? Bitch, please. Remember, mixing extreme conservative religion with authoritarian power is exactly what killed Jesus. And these people have taken a faith based on loving the poor and visiting prisoners and washing feet and turned it into a political movement based on hating the poor, building walls in prisons, and kissing Trump's feet. Some of my friends like to say religion's responsible for all the world's hate and the violence and the sexism and the homophobia. And they're not totally wrong, but they're not totally right. The primary source of global conflict and oppression of women and suppression of science and persecution of gay folks is not religion. It's the extreme fundamentalist wings of all the world's religions. The extreme conservative Jews, extreme conservative Muslims, extreme conservative Christians, they are the ones responsible for so much of the strife right now. Check out the news sometime. It ain't the liberal and moderate believers causing all this shit. And Christian fundamentalism is this movement within Christianity that believes the Bible is literal, inerrant. They never interpret any biblical text as parable or metaphor. It's all 100% literal. And gosh darn it, they think the rest of us should believe that too. And they're going to force that on us. I was raised to believe that the opposite of faith isn't doubt. The opposite of faith is certainty. And fundamentalists are full of absolute certainty. They push the us versus them narrative. It's all about their power. They've accepted Jesus as their Lord and Savior, but that means they get to judge others and enjoy the luxury of knowing God's always on their side. Does it sound like anybody you might know? Shakespeare tells us, even the devil can recite scripture for his purpose. And from the beginning of this country, I don't need to tell you how this religion has been used for all types of evil. Historically, American Christians of both major political parties have used Christianity to justify the slaughter of indigenous people, the enslavement of African people, the labor exploitation of Asian people, turning a blind eye to the suffering of European Jewish people, indiscriminate detention, torture, and prejudice of Muslim people, and of course, pushing perpetual second-class citizenship on female people. But there's another side to this, because for nearly every great injustice that has been perpetrated by authoritarian Christianity, there have been liberal and moderate Christians and their allies who have been non-Christians, atheists, Jews, etc., who have fought back. Conscientious atheists and progressive Christians are going to have to team up again for the next 3 years to save us all from the people who have weaponized both the Bible and the flag. Before my father died, he said to me his religious belief. He said, there's two things God can't do. He can't stop loving you, and he can't stop forgiving you. That's all the religious belief I really have. I just go by what's in the book, and the teachings of Jesus align very nicely with progressive values that could save a church, that could save a democracy, that could save capitalism and this economy if we stop the crazy people from burning it all down. Whether you pray to God or pray to Google or pray to your morning coffee, we are all being called right now. Not to convert each other, we are called to protect each other. Because the moment a government claims to speak for God, it stops listening to people and constitutions and its own holy books. And the moment people of conscience, religious or not, stop uniting, we stop having a chance at being a democracy. So hooray for Team Jesus and Team Darwin. The fascists have got the guns and the crosses, but we have got the truth, the empathy, the jokes, and the receipts. And that, my friends, is more powerful than any golden calf in a red tie. The future of this democracy may once again depend on this partnership, not because it's going to erase any theological divide ever, but because they insist that conscience, compassion, and freedom are always bigger than any one faith. Thank you guys so much for welcoming me here tonight. We got a real history lesson there, and I'm so grateful for your patience. Thank you all. Peace.
And that's John Fugelsang. If you want to watch the entire speech, go to FFRF's YouTube channel or use Freethought TV, which is our new free app for your smart TV or other smart devices. And that is our show for today. If you're a member of the Freedom from Religion Foundation, thank you. And if not, please consider joining us. Look at our website to ask for info or join us at ffrf.org.